After a nice pickup, the offense is faced with a 1st and 10 from the middle of the field. The perfect low-risk opportunity to reach deep in the playbook and dial something up. As the ball's snapped and the play starts to develop, it's not hard to spot what's happening. A quick wide receiver screen falls into place, but just as the ball is caught, the receiver repositions and steps back. A trick play. A forward pass from anyone that's not the quarterback. It's a unique aspect of football, but who has done it the best? The non-quarterback pass is more rare than you may realize. In fact, within just this small graph here, I have gathered every single NFL player who has ever completed more than 10 passes post-merger. Outside of the quarterback position, of course. Now, one of these sticks out as an obvious outlier, but it's also got an asterisk next to it. Joe Webb is the long bar on the bottom, and he's an extremely unique case for this stat. Webb was a Swiss Army knife. He could go in at seemingly any position and fill the role with solid production. If you've never heard of him, think Taysom Hill, maybe with even more capabilities. But unlike Taysom Hill, Webb is officially listed on many sites as a wide receiver, keeping him eligible for this list. Now, the asterisk comes into play very early in his NFL career. Webb was drafted out of UAB, where he played quarterback, but he was taken as an all-around athlete by the Vikings. Yet, in his first few years in the league, Webb was forced back to the quarterback spot through some Minnesota injuries. This means Joe Webb started a couple games at QB despite not officially being labeled one, allowing him to rack up some real respectable passing numbers. But that little loophole isn't really what I'm interested in for this list. Getting Joe Webb out of here narrows it down to 5, the true masters of the non-quarterback pass. And Anquan Randall L seems to be the trick play king with 22 completions, all from the wide receiver spot. In addition to that, he has a top non-quarterback pass ever. It's 2009. The Seahawks and Steelers are facing off in the Super Bowl. On the biggest stage in America, Pittsburgh pulls out the reverse pass, and Anquan Randall L becomes the first and only wide receiver to throw a touchdown in the Super Bowl. It seals the game as the final score in a Steelers win, and this was probably the greatest trick play ever until the Philly special came along. However, the most completions alone doesn't necessarily make Randall L the greatest to ever throw the ball out of position. Dick Hoke nears him, and this isn't even all of Dick's completions through his career. See, Dick played through the NFL merger, and I have to make a pretty distinct cutoff line to not count anything before then. The pre-1946 NFL was a lot more positionless, for lack of a better word. Teams would often play whoever had the best arm at tailback or fullback, and there they would rack up high pass numbers, throwing even more than the quarterback sometimes. Now, Dick only loses 5 completions from before the merger, but if you're curious, extending this back to 1920, Cecil Isbell wipes away every other non-quarterback to ever throw a pass, and this is a record I don't ever see being broken. Back to modern times though, Johnny Hekker comes up next. Hekker is a punter, but he's completed more passes than all but 2 non-quarterbacks in the modern NFL. Of course, these have come on fake punts, yet another layer of trickery. Hekker's had one coach famous for his love of trick plays, and another coach famous for his love of weird plays, both of which the fake punt fall into. Then there's Dan Reeves, another borderline merger guy. You may have never heard his name before, but this isn't the only list he's near the top of. Dan Reeves has been a part of the 3rd most Super Bowls ever, out of anyone, with 9. Bill Belichick and Tom Brady are the only names to take part in more Super Bowls than Dan Reeves. And we round out the list with the best players on it. Walter Payton and Marcus Allen both left their mark not just as guys who could throw, but as guys who could light it up. You see, they're both near the bottom of this list, but this is just completions. Throwing the ball has so much more going into it than that. This second bar is the amount of touchdowns these guys threw. Some normal numbers near the bottom, but up top? Oh boy. Marcus Allen threw 6 touchdowns on 12 completions. Half of his caught passes went for 6. And that's child's play compared to Walter Payton. 11 completions, 8 touchdowns. When Walter Payton threw a pass that didn't hit the ground, it had a 72% chance of reaching pay dirt. About the same chance LeBron James has to make any given free throw. The rest of the numbers are normal enough. It's small sample sizes that unsurprisingly have a pretty high percentage of touchdowns. That's to be expected because when one of these guys are throwing the ball, it's likely a boom or bust play, and with enough tries, you're gonna get some booms. But it does make it a little funnier that Joe Webb, the actual quarterback, only had 3 touchdowns on way more attempts than any of these guys. I'll post each of their full stats in the comments if you'd like to further analyze, but that's about all there is. When someone who's not supposed to drops back to pass, you know something fun is gonna happen. This data is silly, it's interesting, and at the end of the day, it's virtually useless. But that's what makes us love it so much. Thank you.